نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فيقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما يعلم جنود ربك إلا هو وقال جل شأنه في موضع آخر فلا تزكوا أنفسكم هو أعلم بمن اتقى. My brothers and sisters in Islam, there has been a fresh barrage of news, stories, incidents, reports, controversies surrounding the Muslim community in Britain, what we wear and are not supposed to wear, where we can sit and where we are not allowed to sit, who can speak, who is not allowed to speak. And at the same time, there have been serious incidents, such as over a week ago, the eventual conviction of the two Woolwich murderers. And if I would pick out this one issue for comment, it is not because of belittling any other of the serious issues which our ummah is facing, whether on the local, national or international and global levels. Nor by speaking about it am I seeking to please any government, least of all a government that is populated by people who are so misinformed and malintentioned towards our community that they wish to divide people into the good and bad Muslims. They wish to define extremism as virtually any expression of some of the teachings of our deen, even conflating the idea of extremism with being conservative in our values, as if this has something to do with the other type of extremism which is linked to terrorism and killing and so on. So what I'm going to say about these murderers is, and Allah knows, only out of love for my Lord and fear of Him, and out of loyalty and obedience to His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I ask Allah to give us tawfiq in what we say. One of the things that stood out from the trial was the description of these people, or at least one of them, for himself as being soldiers of Allah. And for those who understood the verses that we mentioned at the beginning, there are verses which have their context in their surahs, in Surah Al-Muddathir and Surah Al-Najm, but which carry principles and values which are universal. The first of those verses said, none knows the soldiers of Allah except He, the soldiers of your Lord. Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who decides who is truly a believer, who is truly a follower of His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is His beloved, who is striving in His path, and who has gone astray. And in the other verse we mentioned, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. So don't make these claims about yourself and recommend yourself and consider yourself pure, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best who has taqwa. And in any action, it is not enough only to have sincerity, if we can assume that there is sincerity in those people's actions. But it is also, any action must be in accordance with the law of Allah, the Sharia of Allah, which so many people are claiming that they wish to implement upon this earth. Then we must be the first people to submit to the law of Allah and the guidance of Allah as found in the Quran and Sunnah, and as expounded by those people who are deemed as the people of remembrance, Ahlul Dhikr, And the Quran tells us, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. So it is a bold claim to state about oneself that I am a soldier of Allah, as if that person has received a direct commandment from Allah to carry out the killing on the streets of London. But there is no such instruction in the Quran and Sunnah. So then, is he a soldier of Islam? If anyone claims to act according to the religion of Islam, then he should consult with the scholars of Islam and weigh up his action in the light of the Quran and Sunnah. And he would find that the scholars say something very different from what they have concluded. Yes, we know that blood is being shed by soldiers of the Western countries, including our own. Muslim blood is being shed. This is a fact. But why is it that the scholars do not say that we are at war with the people of Britain? Because there are many layers of complexity. And as a Muslim community, it is impossible for us to consider ourselves at war with the people around us. And even if somebody comes into this country as a visitor and takes a visa from the embassy of the UK, when they do so on the proviso that they are coming here for lawful purposes, for peaceful purposes. It's something that doesn't even need to be said explicitly, because it is a given that if you are asking to enter someone's country, you're not doing so as a warrior or as a soldier of Allah or anyone else. And then what about someone who is a citizen of this country? Is it not more binding upon that person to live in peace and security with those around him? Is it not more essential that as British Muslims, that our neighbors feel secure from us? So, they are not soldiers of Islam, nor are they soldiers of the Muslims, because we as a Muslim community did not appoint them or delegate them to act on our behalf. And in fact, by doing what they have done, not only have they taken a life, but they have increased the difficulty upon the Muslims in this country, who are not only trying to live in peace, but also to spread their message in peace. And we as Muslims have a responsibility to give da'wah and to invite people to our deen. And then all those actions which would discredit this deen and discredit the carriers of this deen, we should stand up and consider that to be an attack upon us and upon our values. Who are the real soldiers of Allah? As we said, Allah Azza wa Jal knows whom He chooses as His soldiers and His beloved and the martyrs in His path. But those soldiers of Allah are those who live according to the guidance of Allah. They are the ones who carry those akhlaq and those characteristics that are praised in the Quran as the characteristics of the muttaqeen in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, the characteristics of the mu'mineen as in the beginning of Surah Al-Mu'minun, the characteristics of Ibadur Rahman as at the end of Surah Al-Furqan and elsewhere throughout the Quran. They are those who sacrifice their own well-being for the safety and security of others. And just yesterday there was a funeral of one such person who I may consider and we may consider to be one of the soldiers of Allah, and Allah knows best. And he was Dr. Abbas Khan, a British doctor who went to Syria to help the people there, was imprisoned, was, according to any level of certainty that we can have, was tortured and was killed by the Syrian regime. Wallahu a'lam, as they are still trying to investigate this matter. These are the people who we should be promoting and praising as being representing what our deen calls upon us to do. Like the stories that come from time to time, but unfortunately don't receive that publicity. About 2 weeks ago, a bus driver, mashallah, a very Muslim looking bus driver, if you know what I mean, who picked up a woman who was pregnant, was waiting for an ambulance and none was coming, so he took her in his bus to the hospital. Maybe this person should be called a soldier of Allah. What about those people who are running educational institutions, are raising a generation of young people to understand their identity as Muslims and as citizens of this country? They are the soldiers of Allah. What about those people who are trying to feed the homeless, the hungry, looking after the elderly in these winter months and trying to provide for them and make sure that they do not suffer? These are the soldiers of Allah. These are the people whom we should be promoting so that people know about their stories, and we ourselves should be promoting Islam with our actions. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. وأشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله الله. وقال جل شأنه في موضع آخر: فلا تزكوا أنفسكم هو أعلم بمن اتقى. My brothers and sisters in Islam, there has been a نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه. A fresh barrage of news, stories, incidents, reports, controversies surrounding the Muslim community in Britain, what we wear and are not supposed to wear, where we can sit and where we are not allowed to sit, who can speak, who is not allowed to speak. صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، فيقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: وما يعلم جنود ربك إلا